Hello, and for today's daily 3D modeling speed challenge, I am going to be making this hammer and anvil. So as always, leave a comment if you have another challenge for me, but otherwise my time starts now. So I want to make something like this that is just like a hammer hitting an anvil. I want it to be a close-up shot. I want to have these particles spraying out like that, and I want just a pretty straightforward emission shader like this. So I suppose let's begin with the anvil. I think the basic shape of it is going to be like kind of long like that, and that'll be good enough to start with. So let's get our shot framed. I want camera to view, and then I want our passepartout much darker, and I want third. So I want it to be like a zoomed in view because I don't want to have to go that hard on some of the modeling stuff here. And I suppose I can do something like this, and then I can have like the hammer coming down, striking the middle here, the hammer coming this way, and then it's sort of like the eyes will be guided to, the glowing metal here by these two lines as well. And then I'll just put like a black or whatever background, and that'll be fine. Okay, so I'll redo that, and then I'll add in give me a cube, move it up, scale it down. Okay, so this can be the start of our like whatever item, the item that's going to be hit by the anvil. So we can just position it in the camera like so, like that, and maybe we can turn it out a bit more so that we don't have to worry so much about the end. So we'll put it like this, and then I'll have the hammer coming down here. So I'll add another cube, scale it down, move it up, scale it down, move it up, scale it up a bit on this axis, scale it down a bit. Doesn't have to be realistic because the point is to, convey the, I guess, artistic idea, not exactly to make, the most realistic hammer and anvil render you've ever seen. And for the hammer, we can just do something like this, drew it out this way. Now we can rotate it like that, kind of X-ray mode, get rid of these notation marks. And okay, I'm thinking that's a pretty good start. So now we'll just have to model everything out. The proportions are a little weird. Maybe it could be worth it to scale it down. Shift Y, 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 S, Shift Y, Y, local Y. Yeah, there we go. S, Shift Y, Y, S, Shift Y, Y. Let me just bring it down even more. I'm able to bring this guy up, and I like that. Okay, that sounds like a good start to me. Let's just place our items onto the surface. And okay, I think I'll start off with making this hammer look better. So what do blacksmith's hammers look like? So I think I'll go with something like this, or no, I'll just go with something like this, where it's like a basic, a basic rectangular prism that gets tapered towards the edges, which is sort of what we already have, but we should get rid of these. We'll dissolve those, and then we can scale both of these down. That. Okay, already better. And then for the finishing touch, for the basic shape that is, we can just add in a bevel modifier. Segments, yeah, more segments, and up the amount. No, turn down the amount. We'll start with that. And then I'll add in or no, here, wait, why don't we shade smooth by angle and just see how that goes? Or maybe just shade smooth. I'm not selected anything. Smooth by angle, and okay, that's pretty good. The top of the hammer does have that connection point, so I think we'll have to add in, we'll have to do that, rotate it along the local Y by 90, scale it along the local Y, no, scale it local X, scale it on the local X now. Okay, do a little bit of that, slide it that way, and let's get into camera view. Okay, it does need to be bigger, longer rather, and it can just be thicker all around. Shoot. Okay, it's still centered like that, so you can just move it like that, scale it up, scale it up. Okay, I think that's probably good as a start, and then, so the rest of this will come, I think the rest of the detail here is going to come from my materials. And then maybe here on this guy, we can, move this down a bit. We add a loop cut here, and then move this down a bit, and then add in a bevel with just one segment, or here, you can hop out of edit mode, and then add in a subsurf to give it some more geometry. And we can change the segments to make the edges sharper. And then because there's a subsurf, and therefore lots of geometry, we can add in something like a displace with just a little bit of noise, maybe some clouds, crank the size up, or let's apply scale real quick, okay? And then turn the strength way, way, way down to like 0.01. Turn the bevel up even more, maybe. And for the texture, we can even make it more wavy, or rather smaller scale. So that there's some, little imperfections like that. And we'll also add some more whenever we get to texturing the object. Now for the anvil, I think what I'll do is just run like, Control E, subdivide, and I'll just like turn this up, and then hop into proportional editing and just sort of move some stuff around. Yeah, move you down, you down, nudge you up, nudge you down, nudge you down a bit, nudge you up a little bit, nudge you up. That's a good start. And then I'll also do the same modifiers I've been doing, where we'll add in a bevel, make it bigger, make it smaller, whatever. Add in a bevel, add in a subsurf. And now we've got a nice, subtle sort of waviness, unevenness to the anvil that we can also accentuate later when we get to shading these objects, which why don't we actually go ahead and start that now? So again, I'll start with the anvil because that's sort of the base of the base of this whole operation. And then I also want to add in, or I want to change the world rather to be much darker and maybe a little on the blue side. So we can hop into render view for a second. And then I want to get rid of, no, wait, let's start with this for now. So we want a metallic surface that has a roughness made of noise. Just click, and then we'll also control T. So generated seems fine. Why don't we make the scale a bit larger like that and turn the detail up actually. And then I want to add a color ramp and make the blacks a bit more defined like that. And then this will be a good start. So I'll use this as a mask between two shaders. So I want a smooth metal shader. So you can show it like this. This is going to be like the smooth one rather. So it'll be metallic and then it'll have actually some roughness to it. And why don't we object smooth by angle? So it'll need to have some roughness to it. I'm not sure how much I want to add. I think I'll do another noise texture. So we can just copy this, slap it in there, turn the scale way up, and then I'll do a map range. And we'll just bring it down so the roughness is a bit lower to like 0.6, and the minimum is going to be like 0.4. So that's your smooth anvil, and it'll be like a blackish or dark grayish color. And then I'll mix that between here. We'll just copy this all set up. And actually it even needs to be darker. And then I'll add in a sort of rusty node setup, which this roughness needs to be even higher from like 0.7 to 1. And then we'll mix between them using this, the factor, plop that in the surface, shader 1, shader 2, and let's see how it looks. Okay, too much rust, so what we can do is just invert these. Oh, that's worse. So what we'll have to do is change the stops on here. So is the rust, so white adds rust, black takes away rust, more detail even, and maybe even the scale on this can change a bit. Okay, I'm fairly happy with that. And then one next touch I want to add is I don't want it to be actually like too rusty. I just want it to be like noticeable kind of wear, I guess, on the anvil. But I think a little bit of that like rusted aesthetic is fine. But we'll do the classic. Add a bump map. We'll take some noise. We'll make the strength, make this the height, slap that in the normal. We'll give it a second. And then why don't we, to make this more visible, we'll add like a sun and rotate it in a direction. Okay, so the rust is rusty, that's for sure. I'm actually really happy with how the rust looks with just that. I'll add a little bit of bumpiness to the other surface, but I'll do it with the same noise texture like this and plug that in there. And this one, the strength will have to be like 0.1 or 2. It'll have to be much lower, and we'll see what it needs to be whenever this is, see, yeah, that's way too much. So turn that down, 0.01 even, it's too low, 0.1, 0.05. Okay, sure. And it might even be worth to put in the same map range node. We'll see how that looks, and we'll give it a second. And okay, that looks better. Okay, sure, anvil surface. So I want to copy this node setup. I'll call this anvil. And I want to give it to basically this, except I want to make a few modifications. Number one, I want to get rid of the rust on the hammer, and then I want to make the deformations. I want to change the bump on them and also tweak the roughness, I think. Okay, so we can work in texture view for a minute. But for this, I want this color to be much grayer. And then on all of this, I want the scale to come up. Turn that scale down. We'll turn this scale down. I'll turn this scale down, and then that'll be good. I also think it would be good to add maybe some deformation, some displacement to this. We'll do displace, new, texture. We'll also apply scale. Please don't mess with my textures. Okay, the textures seem fine, but we want to use some clouds. Turn the size up, turn the size down, and then on strength, we'll make it like 0.1. Maybe, I see what's happening. We need a subsurf in between the bevel and the displace, like that. Like this. Oh, the bevel is wrong. Okay, so we'll turn the bevel up just a hair, like that. And then what's our subsurf look like? Okay, this is, okay, much better. I was like, what happened to my geometry? Okay, 0.01, 0.05. And then can turn the scale up even more, even to, I think that's about good. Whatever. All right, and then I'll add in this like hammer material. Definitely apply in this scale, and then how our modifiers look, move it up a little bit like that. And that's too long, so maybe I'll copy this, and then we can like scale these along, or maybe give it like different coordinate system, maybe the object coordinates. Do it for both of them and just give it a minute, let it cook. Okay, I've changed the render view. For some reason, it's not liking these coordinate systems for whatever reason, but that's fine. We'll live. I'm trying a couple different vectors for my noise textures because I don't want them to be all like stretched along the length of the handle, but that's sort of how they're ending up. UV's worse. What if we do like camera coordinates? Something kind of simple. Maybe it'll be nice. Nice and scaled texture view. Come on, show me. Okay, that's better because now this has like sort of a brushed effect. That's fine. Now for this guy, we can actually start off with, as per usual, a copy of the anvil material, but we can get rid of the rust. Get rid of the rust, get rid of this noise texture, because instead of mapping between this principled shader and like a rust shader, we want to map between an emission shader. And we want to do it on a, here, let's solo view this for a second. Texture view, emission. Okay, cool. So we'll use a linear gradient texture. Give me a mapping node. Show me what this looks like for a second. Linear. So it looks like it's coming in from this direction. So we got to rotate it on the Z question mark. Or that's location. Rotate it, nothing. Okay, so it looks like on the Y, 90, and then maybe move it around. Nope. Okay, change of plans. Let's be more methodical about this. Let's start off with the UV, or with the object coordinates instead. And it looks like, okay, it looks like it's, where's the object origin? Solid mode, origin to geometry, texture mode. Okay, so now the origin is going to be somewhere around here. So if we rotate it around the Y, okay, it rotates along that like turning axis. So I'm thinking the Z, perfect. Okay, so we'll rotate it 90 degrees along the Z. Okay, now we'll use a color ramp, today color ramp, to make it so that it is just a bit less defined, and we'll add like a gray stop and let's bring it down like that. I think we can change it to something like ease, maybe make it a bit more, you know, loose. And now what we want is to use this as the factor between these two shaders. For our render settings, I already know that we want bloom, and I know that we want this to be like a bright red orange color with a strength of like 7. Oh, even higher, strength of like 10. And then it can be even, we'll change the temperature of the color. We'll make it really hot like that. Okay, so now back to shaded view. We'll unsolo. Okay, and this is a good start. And why don't we hop into render view to see, okay, pretty good start. This bump is way too prominent, so we can just turn it down for this material. Yeah, bump, wow, strength 0.1, 0.5 maybe. Yeah, that's better. And then strength 0.05, already really low, so maybe 0.25. Okay, and then the roughness, I also want this to be a bit less shiny, so I might actually break a rule here and just turn the specular down. It's not doing anything, whatever. Roughness, map the roughness to like 0.6 to 0.8, and okay, that seems about good. Now it seems like our issue is our lighting systems, so why don't we get rid of that, and why don't we make the only lighting in the scene be this emission shader. And I'm thinking, actually, why don't I try just switching it to cycles for a second, and we'll just see how it looks. GPU compute. All right, so let's make this emission brighter, even 100. Okay, yeah, and then we can change this texture to be, that's what that does. Maybe make it a bit blacker, or what if we add another sort of intermediate stop, kind of like that. And then I think we will need a light, or if we skip a light, so this bump is also too egregious. 0.5, 2, oof, strength. What if we just turn the distance down to like 0.5, 0.1? Okay, that's better. Hammer, we'll turn your distance down to 2.5, 0.5. Okay, perfect. Now, I also want to add like a particle system that sprays sort of, you know, all these particles around, but I don't know if I'll have time. So what I'll do instead is, actually no, we'll try to add a particle system. UV sphere, Z, scale it down, move it like here, scale it down, and then particles, particle system, or no, I'll add in plane this way, and I want them to be spraying sort of this direction. And then I'll add a particle system, new emitter, RX, RXX, RXX 180. We can change the physics, make the mass smaller, make the velocity much higher. Okay, make it a bit lower, make it even lower, like 2. Okay, we don't have that much time left, but I wanted to have particles that shot this way and would be all glowy, but I don't know how I will get that done in time. Like this, and then I'll say display as, you know what, I'm not gonna get this done in our time limit. Our time's already up. I want to finish this little particle system though. So I'll display as object, render as object, or I'll select our, where'd it go? Where's our sphere? It's an empty sphere, particle system, render as this guy, but small. And I also want motion blur, bam. So maybe I also want to scale it up and make the effect more across the surface. Maybe it would be good to have like, maybe we might add a force. So I just want the spray to be like super chaotic, something like that. We might even have it like this, and maybe the force of this needs to be higher. Okay, so I think even we could move it down and then move it like this, have it spray out. Ah, that's the effect I want. Okay, where is our particle emitter? Plane, like that, maybe even like this. Okay, perfect. So now we'll make this have a material. We'll give it a new, we can just do it, we can go to shaders, emission, color, orangey, strength even brighter, like 20 plus. Oops. And why don't we render image and see how it looks? Okay, we can move this, move that away. Particle system, we can bake it. Give me, where is cache? Calculate to frame, render image, and then render settings. We'll turn them down for just 1 second because we don't need, it doesn't have to be the final render. Render image. Okay, I'm actually pretty happy with this, how it's turned out. I think the particles need to have, they need to be, number one, smaller. Number two, they need to have, I think, a lower velocity, or even can change the way they're distributed. Might turn the strength of this force up. That might help, like 2. Okay, and then I'll give the particles, can I randomize their velocity at all? Particles, physics, velocity, object velocity. We'll randomize it back, and then cache, calculate to frame. Also, the material of this is wrong. It needs to be different at the very least. Why don't we grab this color code? It is FF791A. So FF791A, and the strength was like 100. Or actually, it might even be good to make these white, to add some white light to the scene, and then render image. We'll give it a second. Okay, I actually think this is good. We'll make it a bit more orange, and then leave that. We don't have to render any more of that, but we can make the roughness actually higher on all accounts. So make this like 0.6 to 0.4 or to 0.8, and then this plane needs to be not visible. So new transparent BSDF, that color, what is white? Completely transparent, maybe black, completely transparent. Oh, that's translucent, transparent BSDF. Oops, and make it white. So now it's transparent, gorgeous. We can add even more randomness to the particle system velocity, randomize more. So now it's just more chaotic. I like that. Okay. Let's find a frame that looks good. Although less randomness might be good. Randomize down to like maybe 3. Seems like it might be a good number. Play, pause. This is the one. This is the one. Calculate to frame. Calculate to frame. Okay. Render image with how many steps? 1024. Okay. And with that, I think I'll call this finished. There's some weird artifacts on the edge of this hammer that I don't like. And other than that, this intersection is weird, but I don't care to fix it. The fact that these are all streaks is a bit much. And then the material on the edge of this hammer is a little wonky, but otherwise I'm actually pretty happy with how this scene has turned out. I might make the contrast a bit higher from the world to the hammer to make the sort of guiding the eyes a bit more obvious. But other than that, this has been my daily 3D rendering challenge. If you have another challenge for me, as always, leave a comment. But otherwise, goodbye.